Hello, Pack-A-Day members. Welcome into this members-only edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast, live here answering your questions for probably about the next 45 minutes or so. Happy to get to as many as humanly possible. You guys are the absolutely best people, and I cannot thank you enough for being members. And in the spirit of Thanksgiving, just again, cannot appreciate you guys enough for your support, your contributions, and just kind of showing up and asking amazing questions in the Q&As, just all of the above. So thank you for everything that you do. Excited to get into today's chat. So without further ado, let's jump into it right away. Have you seen Rashan getting a lot better over these past few games, or is that just a result of lower level of competition from opposing offensive tackles? I do think Rashan is playing better. I don't think Rashan is playing to the level that he was pre-ACL injury, or even when he came back right away last year from the ACL injury, which is a weird thing to say, but he kind of came back on fire last year, like a man possessed, like he was awesome. So I haven't seen that Rashan Gary yet, but I do think he's playing better football than he was earlier in the season. It's good football. It's not unbelievable football. In fact, now I'm kind of curious where I haven't looked at where PFF has him graded, just out of curiosity. Yeah, so they have him at about a 70 grade so far, which is on mine. So I think I have a slight positive on him so far. I have on Rashan Gary a plus 0.8 grade. So if we were probably doing it apples to apples, I would probably have like a 62 grade on Rashan Gary. If we were kind of comparing it, they have a 70 grade on him. I don't necessarily hate that. But where you're looking at him right now, he's got 28 total pressures on the season so far, which is not where you would expect him to be. Just to kind of give you an idea, in 2021, he had 87 pressures on the season, 87 in 2021. He had 46 in 2020. That was his second year. In 530 snaps, so about 100 more than he's got right now, he had 46 pressures. Now, I guess it's possible that he could have like 18 more pressures in the next 100 snaps-ish, but he's certainly not on pace for that. And that was in his second year. So to me, he's definitely playing better. He's a value add to the team. You know, I still think their best defensive end. I don't think it's particularly close, but I don't think he's played to the level that he's capable of or anywhere near close to it. So there's still a better player that's out there. I'm hoping to see it as the remainder of the season goes along. I do appreciate, again, the effort that he's putting in. I don't think it's for lack of effort or anything like that. Just still left wanting for a little bit more. But these past few weeks have definitely been better. That brings me to one other question here. So really since week 5, I have a plus 1.35 grade on him in total. In the last 3 weeks, I have a plus 0.5 grade on him. So like, again, good, solid, above average for sure, but nowhere near where I would kind of put him, again, what I think he's capable of on like, just from what we've seen of him in the past. Did Javon Bullard's good game last week come from more of the safety position or in the slot? In the slot, it was primarily Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams at safety. Javon Bullard was in the slot, and then you had a lot of Keyshawn Nixon on one outside corner, and then it was Valentine and Stokes splitting the other corner position. So it was primarily in the slot. What happened to my super chat? It's gone. The amount was deducted from my card sent last night. I don't know what to tell you, Donald. I don't know if I can see anything at all. If it's not showing up and it's something that you sent, you may want to follow up with YouTube on that one. I'm just seeing if I can see super chats just really quick. I won't take too much time here. I did see there was, let's see. That's interesting. So I got a super chat. I do see a super chat from you for $50 as of today. I think it was today. Hi, Andy. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the sickest, how sick a puppy am I if I'm hoping to see the fencing position on live TV tomorrow? Is that the one? First of all, it's an interesting comment, Donald. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if you sent it separately. I don't know why it's not showing up in the chat. That is interesting. Maybe due to the content of it, it was blocked from the chat. I don't know entirely. But yeah, I don't ever want to see anyone in the fencing position, Donald. So I don't know how to exactly respond to that one. I don't know if there's a joke that I'm missing there. Hopefully there kind of is. But yeah, we don't want to see anyone get hurt in any game, period, end of story. But I don't know why it's not showing up. The only thing I can think of is maybe the content of the chat as to why maybe it didn't show up. Ben, sorry to do this to you, Andy, but is it Christmas pizza as well? Because my family always did the same stuff, but with a honey glazed baked ham instead of turkey. I will actually take turkey over ham, by the way. So I like ham less than I do turkey, full stop. But for Christmas, it just depends on, again, where we're going. If we go to one of our family members, they make this incredible pesto lasagna every year, which is incredible. If I go to my in-laws, they will absolutely make me Christmas pizza. If we go to my family's, it's whatever is on the menu for that particular day. Sometimes they do steaks, which is nice. So I have no problem with that. But yeah, it usually, I don't think any of my family does ham or turkey on Christmas. So I think I'm pretty good there. And yes, just got the comment. Yes, pesto lasagna is very, very awesome. It's unbelievable, in fact. All right, let's see. With just 6 games in the regular season, what do you think will be Green Bay's final record? And who do you think they will? I don't know if there's a follow-up to this, Eugene. I'm assuming who they will beat and lose to. I still said when I said there was 8 games left in the season, I said they would lose 2 games. So I think 2 games is what I'm still going to say. As far as who they lose to, that's a little bit tougher. One of my bold predictions was that Green Bay would finish 4-0 against the NFC North. So that would sort of limit it to losses against the Dolphins, Seahawks, or Saints. I'm going to say they do end up losing to the Lions next week. I just think they're a really good football team. And I don't think, Detroit will take them for granted after Green Bay beat them there last season. So I'll say they lose. I'm going to actually say they lose 2 in a row to the Lions and the Seahawks. They beat the Dolphins, they lose to the Lions and Seahawks, and the world will be on fire, and everyone's going to panic, and everyone's going to need to get fired. And then they're going to beat the Saints, beat the Vikings, beat the Bears, get hot right before the playoffs start, and then head into the playoffs on the right track. And by the way, won't hate that if that ends up being the case. The reason being is I think there's still some lessons that this team needs to learn, and sometimes failure and losing is the best way to learn those. I guarantee you, I'm not going to be going into the Detroit game or any of these games being like, ooh, hope they lose today to learn some lessons. No, screw that. I'm going to be cheering that they win every game. But if they do lose a game here or there, and it does end up being something like that, I think that can, just sort of get them back on track and be focused in on what they have to do to get wins against good teams. So I'll still say that they finish again with 2 losses by the end of 2 more losses by the end of the season. And I'll just say Seattle and Detroit in that case. And then they go on a run after that and continue that run into the playoffs. Today, I'm thankful for all that you do. The consistency of the really good Packers content means so much, John. I appreciate that a ton. Happy that you enjoy it. Happy I get to do it. And happy that there is a thirst in an audience for it, and never, ever, ever take that for granted. So thank you so much. Matt LaFleur should have let Willis throw the ball or run it on 4th down. He's been so good. Give him a chance to shine a little bit more. Yeah, I think the way that they were running the ball, I think he just kind of figured that they could pick up the first down running it 4 times, and they could have done a read option or something like that. But you don't really want even Malik Willis, your backup quarterback, to get hurt in a situation like that. So I had no problem with them running it 4 times. He's already showcased himself. Even if he completes a pass there or something, is that going to really add to the allure or anything more? I don't think so. So I had no problem. I had no problem whatsoever with him getting or just handing the ball off 4 times there. How do you expect Hafley to counter Tua getting the ball out so fast? Play coverage, simulated pressure, something else? Yeah, I think what we're going to see is a lot of 2 high safeties, and I think we'll see corners pressed up on their wide receivers to try to disrupt some of the quick and easy routes. So I think you're going to try to limit the over-the-top stuff, but also make it so it's tougher to get off the line of scrimmage. It's not a perfect scenario, and you're certainly going to leave yourself a little bit more susceptible against the run, but I think that's just kind of the way that you're going to have to play. I think in some cases we could see some bump and run on the outside and some press on the outside, and then Evan Williams dropping into the box with Xavier McKinney over the top and allowing him to be the guy that kind of patrols the deep end of the field. And if they try to throw deep, Xavier McKinney has the ability to range over and hopefully maybe pick a pass or 2. But I think for the most part, a lot of kind of coverage right at the line of scrimmage, making sure that they can't get into those easy completions, with also 2 safeties over the top, and probably daring them to run the ball over and over and over again. And maybe they do, and you tip your cap, but you're going to have to ask your defenders up front to do some heavy lifting and make sure that they're stopping the run to the best of their ability. Hopefully get some holding calls along the way and can back them up and can get off the field when you have the opportunity to do so. I think Love and the offense are going to have to play some, put up some points to keep up with Waddle, Hill, and Achane. They are killers. I agree. I think it's going to take, I think it could take at least 27 points in this game to come away with the win. Like I think 24, if Green Bay holds them to 24 on defense, I think you've kind of done your job. Anything 24 or under, I think is a good sort of Mendoza line. I think it's always important to set expectations. If Miami gets 3 touchdowns and a field goal in this one, yeah, you're like, everyone's going to be freaking out. Like, oh, they just the same defense. Yeah. I think if you allow 24 points to Miami, you feel like you have an opportunity to win the game. I think that's a reasonable outcome and expectation. I think if it's under that, and if it's anything 23, 21, 20, or certainly anything under 20, you feel like it's really a job well done. So if I'm Green Bay, I'm going in thinking like I need at least 27, and I'd really like to get to 30 in this one. Do you think the Vikings considered screwing the Packers versus the Dolphins when they signed Jamin Davis? I think it would probably have been an added bonus, is anything like that. I think that would have been the cherry on the sundae, if anything. I think they probably would have signed him no matter what. I don't think you just do it for spite, right? If it was for 1 week, then maybe I would say like, yeah, maybe they could have done it. But remember, if you sign a guy off a practice squad, you have to keep him for 3 weeks. You can release him, but you don't get the roster spot and you still have to pay him. So it's a 3-week investment. I don't think you do a 3-week investment to screw the Packers in one game. So I don't see it that way, but I think it would have been like the cherry on the sundae. I'm sure it crossed their mind of like, oh, this is like, and maybe it would have been a tiebreaker, right? If it was between Jamin Davis and some practice squad linebacker for another team, and they're like, which one should we do? All right, let's screw over the Packers. Like maybe that could have been the tiebreaker, but I think for the most part, they would have done it no matter what. And it just would have been kind of a bonus on top of it. Who do you think is the Vikings start? Oh, it's Darnold easily. It's not even close. Sam Darnold, no question about it whatsoever. If we get some snow for the game, I think I'm calling a Kenny Clark breakout game for some reason. Our game for the season. I think you meant for some reason. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get a snow game. I haven't seen any calls for that, but either way, I do think there was a couple plays from Kenny last week that gave me some hope and promise that maybe that switch is flipped a little bit and kind of trending more in the right direction. So see what he can do this week against a Miami offensive line that I do think can be susceptible to a big Kenny Clark game. So hopefully he can perform regardless of weather or any sort of conditions. Is this just a redshirt season for Lloyd? Wilson and Brooks have been nice in the roles. Yeah, I think so. I don't even think you can call it a redshirt season. It's just kind of a lost season, right? It's not like he got to sit on the bench and still practice every day. He's just been out injured for almost the entirety of it. So even when he comes back, he's going to have to find a way to get into game shape after missing an entire season for the most part. Blitz pickup is going to be a question. I'm not saying that they can't find a way to use him, but I mean, man, if he has more than 20 carries the remainder of this year, I think I'd probably be surprised by that. So yeah, I think for the most part, it's just going to be a bit of a lost season for him, but he'll come back strong next year, and there's still going to be a really good running back there. And from a long-term standpoint, you eliminated any wear and tear in 2024. So hopefully that does him well long-term. What elevations do I expect for tomorrow's game? That's a great question. I haven't thought about it too much yet. I think probably just Messiah Swinson would be my guess. I don't think there's anyone else new that would potentially be out for this game, unless I'm forgetting somebody. Because last week they didn't call anyone up. So you have Alexander out, Cooper out. Oh, Dobbs is out, but I don't think they'll call up a wide receiver. I think they'll stick with the 5. Fitzpatrick would be sort of the reason why you would call up Messiah Swinson. McDuffie, they don't have any linebackers to call up. And Josh Myers, if he's out, you have the necessary offensive lineman that you need. So just Jacob Monk would be active instead. So I think probably just Messiah Swinson would be my guess in this one. Yes, Pesto Lasagna is awesome. What wrinkles do you foresee the Packers adding tomorrow to clog up the middle of the field to take away RPO and intermediate in breaking routes that Tua loves? Yeah, I kind of talked about this a little bit, but I think for me, what we're probably looking at here is maybe dropping Evan Williams in the box every once in a while, or Xavier McKinney. I think they're going to show a lot of too high looks and then keep into a lot of too high looks, but sometimes sneak that safety down into the box at the last minute just to try to give him a little bit of a different look. And I would expect in those scenarios for Xavier McKinney to be the guy that's patrolling the deep middle of the field. If you're not going with 2, you want your best safety back there and the guy that can range the furthest, and that would be Xavier McKinney. So I think to clog that up a little bit, we could see a little bit of Evan Williams dropping in there from some cover 2 looks. And I also think maybe from time to time you could see a defensive tackle like a Carl Brooks drop into coverage from the defensive tackle spot as well. I would love if the Bears beat the Lions. How much would that impact this crazy battle in the North? Go Pack Go. Yeah, it kind of sucks having to be a Bears fan on Thanksgiving, right? It's not a fun experience, but hopefully they can come away with the win. And it absolutely would affect the entire, I think NFC. The Vikings would certainly benefit from that. And then you've got Green Bay would benefit from that. So it definitely changes things up. And it certainly makes that game next week, Packers-Lions, just a massive game, right? So yeah, it would definitely change the calculus, assuming Green Bay can get the win against Miami, of course. But either way, it would certainly affect the Lions, even if it's just against Minnesota and whatnot. So yeah, either way, you're kind of cheering for a Bears win in this one, and hopefully the Lions can take a step back. I wouldn't hold my breath either. Dolphins may be the only team in the NFL the Packers have a Lambeau advantage against. The Mystique is clearly proven inconsequential since the Titans game. That's against the Falcons game ages ago, when the Falcons came to town in the playoffs and they'd never lost a game when it was below, like 26 degrees or something like that. And the Vikings just came in and boat raced them for the most part. And Michael Vick just ran all over the field. That was the backbreaker. That was the one where you're like, oh, it's kind of just gone. So yeah, that was the big one. And then to me, it just hasn't been the same ever since. So I do think a little bit of that mystique is gone. They lost to the Giants in the NFC Championship when it was below 15 degrees, 20 degrees, whatever it was. You just got to go play the game. And I think it goes, Green Bay's won in Dallas last year. Like some of these places, come playoff time, man, good teams just find ways to win football games. So you certainly can't count on it. You can't just say Green Bay's going to win because they're at home or because it's cold or anything like that. You got to go play the game. And trust me, Miami is ultra motivated to break this idea that they can't win in the cold. So they're focused in on it. I think Tua is 0-6. He's well aware of it. He said he's going to break some narratives. So they're going to do everything they can to come into Lambeau and just kind of make it so that this is not a thing moving forward. Do you think Jordan will lose confidence in Christian after dropping another long ball? His drop on Sunday reminded me of the drop against the Vikings. No, I don't think so at all. Because quite frankly, Christian has had great hands this season. I understand that first ball against Minnesota has given him sort of this stigma or whatever, but up until this point, he had been one of the better hands catchers on the season so far. Now, he's done a poor job tracking the ball on a couple occasions. That's been an issue, but his hands have actually been really good this season so far. But either way, I don't expect Jordan to go away from people. It's not in his DNA. I think he'll continue to go to the open receiver, and he's going to continue to give him chances. So no, I'd be very surprised if he looked away from Christian at all. Literally, Ben took the word, or I guess maybe I took the words out of your mouth, but yeah, it's not in his operating procedure. I totally agreed. I didn't even see that before I said that. That's crazy. Andy, thank you for all the work and content you do. Do you think we might see a less of a workload for Jacobs this week? Also, hope you and the family have an extra thankful pizza day. Go Pack Go. Thank you so much for that, Kipperoni. I think they'll be cognizant of it. I think Jacobs will do everything in his power to say, no, I want to keep toting the rock, keep giving it to me. But my guess is they'll probably have a number right around 20 touches for Jacobs in this game that they're probably not going to want to go over. And that's okay. I think you're going to be fine with Wilson and Brooks if you get past that point. And let's just say if you get to that point where it's a problem, it's probably a good thing, right? Because it means they're consistently running the football and they've got a good run game going. They're probably winning, or at least, it's an even game, right? If we're talking about Jordan throwing 38, 40, 45 times a game, that's a different connotation. So hopefully they're in that position, but my guess is they probably have a target right around no more than 20 carries in this game. And again, that's okay. You can get Wilson and Brooks the rock and they'll be totally fine. Other than they just don't like playing in the cold, is there a reason why the Dolphins have been so terrible in it? Ball too slick or hard for Tua? No, here's one thing I will add on top of it. I mean, anytime you're a Florida team and you go to a different climate, I think it's the same thing when Green Bay sometimes goes to Jacksonville or Tampa or Miami. You're just not used to that weather when you're used to one thing, right? So sometimes your body just takes time to adjust. I think that's a little bit to do with it. But the other thing is, with Tua, there's a reason why cold weather teams, when you're scouting, look at Josh Allen or a Jordan Love or these bigger 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" quarterbacks with huge hands, because the ball gets a little slicker. It's a little bit harder to grip, and the wind can cause issues in conditions. And you usually want a big-armed, big-handed quarterback that can grip it and rip it and not have a problem regardless of conditions. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, again, Josh Allen in Buffalo. Those are the quarterbacks that you want. When you're playing in a dome, when you're playing in warm weather, it doesn't affect you as much. You can go with a Drew Brees who might have a smaller hand and a smaller stature and not have that same capability, right? you can go with the Tua Tagovailoa. That doesn't work as well if Tua and Breeze have to play 5, 6, 7 games a year in cold conditions, poor conditions, windy conditions, etc. It's a little bit different. So I think you have to be cognizant of the conditions that you're playing with and what players fit those conditions best. And Jordan's a great fit for Green Bay. Tua is a great fit for Miami. Doesn't mean that Jordan can't win in Miami. Doesn't mean Tua can't win in Green Bay. But there is a reason why teams look for certain traits when you are in certain situations or certain areas of the country or a dome team, etc. If you're a dome team, you kind of want faster players, guys that get off the ball really quick. It plays really well in that dome surface. If you're in Green Bay, you kind of want usually a little bit more physical mauling players. It's not exactly what Green Bay's done throughout the years because they've had great quarterbacks, right? But usually that's a little bit more of what you want in a big armed quarterback, which Green Bay has done a great job of. So I think that can play a little bit into sort of the situation. Matthew, hello, Andy. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. Will Jair be back before the end of the regular season? All I can say, Matthew, is I hope so. Your guess is as good as mine. I hope so, or at least the playoffs, right? Like, I just hope he plays again this year. I can't say that with certainty. Don't know how severe it is. I know last time it took 3 weeks and that wasn't long enough to heal. So my guess is probably going to be longer than that, but hopefully they get him back at some point. What do Packers do at kicker this offseason? Keep 34-year-old McManus, who could decline, sign Parker Romo for the Vikings, draft. I think there's a good chance that if McManus finishes the season strong, I think there's a good chance that they just bring him back. I mean, quarterbacks kick until like 38, 39 years old, right? So I think if he kicks well, my guess is McManus just ends up back next year. Wouldn't shock me if they brought a younger player in to maybe compete in camp, but I would still kind of expect him back. Bears got a good D. There is a small percentage chance that they could win, so we can catch the lines. Hey, that's why they play the games. You never quite know what's going to happen. What was Watson's numerical grade just on the drop pass play? Also Quay's grade just on the drop pick play. I'd have to go back and look. The Quay one I'd have to go look at, but the Watson one was a negative 1.0 on that play. That's a drop touchdown that changes the game to a serious amount. There's not going to be a better ball from Jordan maybe all year long. It's right in his hands. That's a tough one. So negative 1.0 on that grade for Watson. I have to go back and look at Quay's. It wasn't a huge negative for Quay though, just a small negative on that one. Step Keith, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that a ton. What do you see from the Miami run defense? How do you foresee the Packers attacking the Dolphins defensive line and linebackers specifically? Yeah, I think you can run at them. I mean, you have to be aware of Calais Campbell. That's one for sure. And then Seiler's been phenomenal for them. Like, he's been really freaking good. So I think you have to be cognizant, but I think Green Bay is going to do a lot of the same stuff they did against San Francisco and feel like they can get the yards that they need. I don't think they need to change up their run game to any major extent, but I think it's just going to be staying balanced. You know, they don't have the edge rushers, especially if Tyus Bauer's potentially out. Not that he's like this super great player anyway. Chop Robinson's the player that you have to be, concerned about from a pass rush standpoint when it's an obvious passing down. So you want to be aware of him. But outside of that, I think you can find ways to run on them that you can kind of utilize the run game as is, and you just have to kind of stay consistent with it. But they're going to have to find a way to run the ball successfully. I think you can, again, beware of Calais Campbell and Seiler a little bit, but I think attack the edges. I think some of the pin pull stuff could work really, really well against Miami. And then, just try to catch them off guard as much as you can. Do some of the spinner stuff and just run your offense. It's kind of the big takeaway here. Just do what you're doing, run your offense, and they should be in a good spot. Can't wait to be at Lambeau tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and go Pack Go. For this Packers team to go far in the playoffs, what are the keys? Go Pack Go, and enjoy your day at Lambeau tomorrow, Adam. Pass rush is still key to me. Taking care of the football, eliminating the mistakes and the self-inflicted wounds, just kind of growing up and becoming a more well-rounded football team. If they can play complementary football and they play their brand of football and don't make mistakes, man, they can beat anyone in this league. They can be as good or better than literally anyone. But they're not quite there yet. They haven't played consistent football. So I think that's the big step. And then again, I think pass rush is going to be so huge to their playoff success. So they got to find a way to generate pressure with four just a little bit more than what they're doing right now. Snoop Robbie Rob, why do you go back and forth between calling Brooks, Chris, and Christopher? I have no idea. I honestly, it's been a total subconscious thing. I have no idea why. I've not put any thought into it whatsoever. I do know, I think when they first signed him, it was listed as Christopher. And I think I've heard him called Chris, obviously. So what is he listed on the roster? Chris. So just Chris. All right. I'll call him Chris from now on since he's Chris on the roster. It's probably going to happen again because, like I said, I haven't put any thought into it, and it's just kind of it's come out that way. I think when they signed him, I thought it was announced as Christopher Brooks. Now I'm curious. No, they announced it as Chris. I don't know why. There's something I don't know if when I looked at it the first time somewhere it said Christopher. I don't know. All right, I'll change it to Chris moving forward. Try to remember. Surprised to see Rashan is third in ESPN's edge run stop win rates. Has he been that good against? He's been so much better against the run, and I think that's why PFF has him as a 70. And there has been some real positive stuff on tape. I don't know. I would be surprised at that as well that it's that high, but I do think he's been much better against the run, and I think he does deserve credit for that, quite frankly, because there would be times where he would get out of his gap and assignment way too many times and kind of go sack hunting, and it would allow this gap to open up, and hasn't really done that. He's played much better team football, and I do really appreciate that from Rashan. What do you think the plan will be if a linebacker goes down? So I think the first thing, right, is can McDuffie play? He's listed as questionable. He was listed as a limited participant today. So if McDuffie plays, it's much ado about nothing, right? I think they're going to be in nickel a ton in this game. Miami loves going 11 and spread personnel. So I think they're going to be in two linebackers the vast majority of the game. And if that's the case, even if one goes down, you still have your two, right? Whether it's Quay and Hopper, Quay and Wilson, Wilson and Hopper, you'll have two guys no matter what. So I think they're going to live in nickel in this game. I think if you would need an emergency player and McDuffie can't go, either it's probably Kitano Ladapo that you drop down from safety or Aaron Mosby that you drop back from defensive end. I think those are the two guys that have, Mosby has played off-ball linebacker, and Oladapo theoretically is somebody that I think a lot of people think could be a linebacker eventually. So those would be the two maybe hybrid players that you could utilize in a pinch. But for the most part, they're going to live in nickel. And even if there is an injury, they'll still have their two linebackers. Speaking of tight end, have we heard anything on Musgrave lately? We have not. Hopefully back sooner rather than later. But again, not heard anything as of late. All right, I'm guessing that with the lack of depth at linebacker right now, that they'll have McDuffie active, even if just for a few snaps, depending on his health. To me, it'll come down to a complete medical decision. If he can go, they'll let him go. If he can't, they won't, and they'll kind of figure it out from there. And they'll have contingency plans, or whether that's Oladapo or Mosby or something different, they'll be ready for it. But to me, that will come down to an entire medical decision. And if he can go, awesome, great. And if not, then they'll sit him down and they won't force it. But they'll have a plan no matter what. I'm not super concerned about it. It's more of just like an interesting scenario that they've got themselves into. That's not ideal, but I don't think it's actually going to play any sort of significant role in this game. I think YouTube resets chat comments overnight. I've seen it before. Oh, there you go. That could be the reason why then. During training camp, I remember you spoke a few times about a Dobbs route in the red zone that was going for touchdowns and nearly impossible to stop. I haven't noticed that year. I think they ran it this past week. I was watching it and the defense just had it covered. So kudos to the defense, but it's just kind of like a little route right along the sideline of the red zone. And he just does this, like, he does a little move and then he cuts it off like right in the very beginning corner of the red zone. And the way that he cuts it off, the timing from Jordan, it was really impossible to stop in camp, but they haven't exactly found a rhythm with it so far in the regular season. So maybe they're waiting for a right time, or maybe they're, just, it hasn't worked or whatever. But no, in camp, it was something that they went to a lot. In the season, I have yet to see it be successful. Happy day before the Dolphins get destroyed. Oh, and Thanksgiving, can't forget that. Go Pack, go. PAD fam is the best. And we got the Andy head logo. King Kermit, thank you so much for that. In my opinion, playing in the cold is definitely more mental than physical. If you tell yourself it's not that cold and you ignore the cold, you can be your best. That's my thoughts. I don't know if you would agree or not with that. It is interesting where I don't know how to put my finger on it or quite explain it. This is going to sound like the dumbest thing ever. I do think temperature is one of the weirdest things, because I've had 70 degrees feel insanely warm, and I've had 70 degrees feel insanely cold. Like, I feel it, like, if I have, like, in summer, for instance, and I don't know how to quantify this, maybe there's a scientific way to explain it and I just don't know it. In summer, if it's 70 degrees outside and I've got the windows open in the house and that 70 degree, weather is coming in, it feels awesome. It feels really warm and I feel great. If it's winter and all the windows are closed and I've got the house temperature set to 70 degrees, it feels really cold to me. It does not feel the same 70 degrees. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know why. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if my head's saying it's winter, so it's cold. I have no idea. But I have had times where Like, and I think part of it is, again, what you're used to, right? So like, I know like after winter is like when it's been like 10, 20 degrees every day. Like if all of a sudden in like February or early March, you get like a 50-degree day, it feels like it's like 80. It feels unbelievable. And then if you're used to like 80, 90-degree weather and all of a sudden you have like a 50-degree day, like it feels insane. Like it might as well be like below zero. It feels crazy cold. So I have no idea how to quantify any of this other than it's probably what you're used to or things like that. But to me, 70 does not always equal 70. It is different based on a variety of different factors, and probably mental plays a huge part into that. But I know this: Green Bay will be used to 25 degrees and Miami will not be used to 25 degrees. So I don't know how much of an advantage that plays, but if there is one, it would certainly go to Green Bay. It's all good, Donald. We all have our moments. No worries whatsoever. Travis Johnson, 21. Which wide receiver do you think gets more snaps, Malik Heath or Bo Melton? Bo Melton. I think Bo Melton gets more in this one. Speaking of Allen, there's supposed to be some crazy weather San Francisco has to deal with when they get to Buffalo over the weekend. I have heard that. I have heard that San Francisco and Buffalo could be a snow game. So that could be a fun one. So we'll see about that. Maybe I'm wrong, but in the offseason, I'd overhaul corner, get rid of Stokes, Rochelle, and anybody not named King and Nixon. I don't know why people have a thing for Kalen King. Like, they, even when they've needed a emergency 6 quarterback, he hasn't even been in the conversation. I would not put anything on Kalen King right now. And even Keisha Nixon, I think, is in that conversation as well. He's got a roster bonus due in March that they'll have to decide on. I think it's time to move off of Jair. He's great when he plays, but that's a win. I do think we talked about this a little bit yesterday on Pack-A-Day Live. Goody has a makeover project every single year that he does somewhere. This year it was safety. We've seen it with defensive end or edge rusher when they did Rashawn, Preston, and Za'Darius all in the same offseason. We saw safety when they did Amos and Darnell Savage in the same offseason. We've seen them draft 3 offensive linemen in the same draft. We've seen like makeover projects all over the place. I think this year's the corner is the makeover project. I think Stokes is gone. I think they'll make a decision on Jair and Nixon. Maybe one of those guys is back, maybe both. Either way, even if Nixon and Jair are back and you still have Valentine, you're going into the season believing that Jair and Nixon are on 1-year deals. So you're going to need to revamp that room for 2026 at worst or at best, however you want to view it. So I think Goody's going to make a significant, contribution to that corner room, primarily through the draft. And then whether or not he utilizes free agency will be dependent upon whether or not they keep Jair and Nixon. If they don't, then I would see him going after a veteran. If they keep Jair or Nixon or both, then I think it's just going to be primarily through the draft. But that's my makeover position as well. Interesting how people criticize Jordan's deep ball accuracy last year and that he's been improving in that area. Yet a good amount have been drops rather than missed throws. Yeah, his deep ball looks phenomenal. Has since the beginning of training camp, That's been one of the big things I pointed out right away is his deep ball is totally different. Looks fantastic. I mean, he's just not missing with it. So I think that's one of the big improvements for Jordan. And unfortunately, it hasn't been something that they've struck gold on enough, but it looks way better than it did earlier last year, which is a great sign. Great thing to see. I'd like to see Lloyd get a handful of carries at least so we can see some game speed and get that experience going into the season. I think it just is going to depend on his health, right? If he's capable of it, I think they would love to get him in as well and just kind of get some of those carries in. But it's going to be based on his health, how quickly he can get back into game shape, and then how we can do in pass protection. I think those are going to be the big 3. What do we do at wide receiver? If I was Goot, I would be aggressive with one player at wide receiver and let him play it out, whether it's early in the draft or free agency. But Dobbs and Watson probably won't both get signed back. You need one. Here's my view on wide receiver. So next year, everyone's back. So Dobbs, Watson, Reed, Wicks, Melton, Heath, they're all still under contract next year. So there's nothing you need to do at wide receiver next year unless you want to. I think Goody will take a wide receiver in the top 4 rounds of the draft. Probably not round 1, right? So like you can rule that out. But somewhere in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round, I think Goody will take a wide receiver. And I think that will be to restock the cupboard and just give some competition, just in case there's some injuries, and just add something to that room. And then with the idea that, hey, maybe if we lose Dobbs and Watson the next year, all right, well, you've got Wicks and you've got Reed. You could still have Melton, Heath, and then that rookie. And then you could draft a player or two, again, the following season, right? And just kind of restocking that cupboard. But I think you will see a wide receiver drafted in the top 125 in this draft by Goody. Do you think it's going to be hard to move Ryan out of the left guard spot when Morgan comes back? He's been playing really well. Right guard spot for Sean Ryan. But no, I actually did think he had a tough week this week. He's one of my lowest graded players. He's been very Jekyll and Hyde. He's either giving you a really, really great week or he's giving you a poor week. And there hasn't really been any in between. I think when Morgan gets back, they will continue to rotate at right guard. And for better or worse, I think Ryan has been better than Morgan. But I do think there's a really talented player there in Josh Morgan. And I do think getting him reps is important. So I do think, assuming everyone else is healthy, that Morgan and Ryan will continue to rotate at right guard. I knew what you meant, King Kerma. You're good. Andy, I see your conviction of Thanksgiving food is stout and unwavering, but I must know your thoughts on blueberry pie. Truthfully, Matt, I have never once had blueberry pie. Never had it. I'd try it. I'm not a huge pie guy. Apple pie is good. Like, it's fine. It's good. I used to like banana cream pie. Not really a banana cream pie anymore guy. I do like a coconut cream pie from time to time. I do like a key lime pie from time to time, but I'm not a huge pie guy. But I would try blueberry pie. Give it a shot. I know it doesn't completely translate, but I'm an ultimate player and I love playing on a colder surface because I'm more sure in my footing than some that cover me. I thought you meant Madden Ultimate Team player. I'm like, I don't know how much conditions make a difference in that. I'm assuming you mean Ultimate Frisbee player. But yeah, I could absolutely see how that would make a difference. Man, I loved Ultimate Frisbee when I ever got to play it in high school. I remember in college, I was there for like a week and we did like an Ultimate Frisbee game outside with a bunch of people. And there was this dude that like was like 6'3", 6'4", and like I was having a pretty good game of Ultimate Frisbee. And this dude was just mossing everybody. Like there was nothing you could do. Like I was in perfect coverage, perfect position, like jumping as high as I possibly could. And dude would just like completely just bloop, like right over me out of absolutely no. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, he is 6'4". I am not 6'4". I am 5'10" and a half. And I will add every half of that I can. I'm like, I don't know what to do in that situation. And his arms felt like Giannis arms. That was as frustrating as it could be because like, I'm like, I am doing everything I'm supposed to. I'm like, I am right on this dude. The Frisbee's coming right to me. I am high pointing this thing. I am about to intercept this Frisbee and, you know, do whatever. And then all of a sudden it goes from me being in like unbelievable position and just ready to pick it off to him having a touch, or I don't know, is it a touchdown? I don't know what it's called. Whatever, a score. So I think that was the last time I played Ultimate Frisbee. I think that 6'4" dude in college and my first week of being in college completely ruined me from ever wanting to play Ultimate Frisbee again because I'm like, there's no way I can overcome this. So I now know how those Packers corners felt going against Randy Moss to some extent. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do and you tip your cap to the opposing player. But I do love some Ultimate Frisbee. It is very, very fun when you get to play it. I would be in no shape to do it anymore, but fun game for sure. Defense needs to turn on and really be a top 7 defense if they want to go anywhere in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, I think as Matt LaFleur loves to say over and over, I think every game is different. I think they need to have the ability to win you games when it matters. And I think they can. I don't know if they will, but I think they need to continue to get better overall. And I think there will be games in the playoffs where the offense could maybe carry them. I think there's others where the defense is going to need to carry them. And when needed, I think they're going to have to come up with those plays and those stops. And don't know how confident I feel in that right now, but I do think there's a good defense there somewhere. Just have to kind of still continue to come together and play better through the remainder of this year. And hopefully that'll be the case as they get more and more comfortable in Jeff Hafley's defense. Pack have a chance to let their blood thicken for the game. Finns haven't. There you go. That probably is making some sense. Josh Jacobs and McKinney better than Smith, Rose, Amos, and Turner. That's a really interesting question. I mean, on the one hand, you do get 4 players that are helping you, right? So we can only base this on the first season, okay? Because we don't know what McKinney and Jacobs are going to be in year 2, 3, and 4, right? So we do know what Amos and Smith and Turner were in their first years. Za'Darius Smith year 1 is still one of the best seasons of play that I have ever seen. Sincerely, and it might sincerely be the best defensive season I've seen. Like it is up there with Charles Woodson, Reggie White, Clay Matthews, any of the defensive player of the years. Like it is honestly up there on a pedestal for me. I thought he was unbelievable his first year in Green Bay. I thought Preston Smith probably had the best year of his career the first year in Green Bay and was a huge signing. Adrian Amos was awesome in that first year. So as much as I love, and then Turner was fine. As much as I love McKinney and Jacobs, I would probably make the argument that Amos, Smith, and Smith, just on their first year alone, and just based also on quantity, right? Plus you get a starting offensive lineman in there too that played solid football, if nothing else, that also could play guard and tackle. I think based on the quantity and how Za'Darius and Preston played that year, and Amos too, like all three of them were phenomenal. Like I would put, if I were to rank those actually on just on defense, I would probably put Za'Darius on the top and then McKinney and then Preston and Amos just a little bit below that. But I would have Za'Darius over McKinney. And I could make an argument that like Amos or Preston were almost on par with what Jacobs is doing from the offensive side of the ball in that year. And the fact that you get two of them, and then again, you get a guard thrown in on top of it, guard tackle, I would probably go with Smith, Amos, and Turner just in years one alone. And again, a lot of that's just due to quantity. Za'Darius and Amos, if it was just Za'Darius and Amos versus McKinney and Jacobs, that would be like a really interesting conversation. I would probably still even go Amos and Za'Darius in that situation just for the 1 year. But either way, you're not going wrong. And McKinney and Jacobs have been phenomenal. So it's more of just to remember and put just how good those guys were in year one in Green Bay. And it's a really interesting conversation though. And if you wanted to pick McKinney and Jacobs, I wouldn't be upset with you or be like, you idiot, what are you possibly thinking? I could very much understand the argument for it. No, the NFL app showed the Packers had a 3% chance to win the division at the moment, but I'm curious what the odds will be if the Lions lose tomorrow and we beat the Dolphins and then beat the Lions next week. Well, the cool thing is I can tell you based on the New York Times simulator, if those exact same things happened, where Green Bay's chances would be of winning. Give me a second here. I'm moving my light down. So let me just put this in. Packers beat the Dolphins and the Packers beat the Lions. And then Detroit loses to the Bears. All right. If that happens, Green Bay is greater than a 99% chance to make the playoffs, by the way. Greater than 99% chance. So they're basically a lock to make the playoffs if they beat the Dolphins and the Lions. And I don't think it really matters, honestly, if whatever happens in that other one. So greater than 99% chance on the win probability sheet. They would have a 28% chance of winning the division in that situation per the New York Times. So 28% chance. So just with a win over the Dolphins and a win over the Lions and a Lions loss to the Bears, Green Bay moves up to a 28% chance to win the division. So that's what it is for the New York Times, at least. So take that for whatever it's worth. Good question, though. All right. Aaron Rodgers, good to see you, my friend. Andy, last Sunday was my first time in Lambeau. My mother's, who's a Niners fan, and I had a blast. Definitely tried to fight the cold as much as we can for Californians. That's awesome, man. Hope you enjoy the game. Hopefully you completely, showed up your mom and completely, rubbed it in her face that Green Bay won. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Is having that victory over the family member in that situation. But no, in all sincerity, I hope you guys enjoyed the hell out of Lambeau. And I'm sure even for her, even in a loss, just seeing Lambeau and everything like that had to be a really awesome experience. So hope you guys enjoyed the hell out of it. What does the offseason look like for inside linebacker? I'd cut Quay, Wilson, possibly McDuffie. I just redo the room. Sorry, I talk about the offseason so much, even though we have a Super Bowl to win. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. Like there's 0.0% chance they cut Quay. Absolutely no chance. He'll be on the roster next year. No question about it. Wilson, I think will come back on a 1-year vet minimum and compete in camp. I don't think they bring McDuffie back. He's an unrestricted free agent. If so, it'd be like on a 1-year vet minimum and he would have to earn his job. And then I think you're looking for Cooper and Hopper to make those steps. So I think your hope is that you can go into the season next year with Quay, Hopper, and Cooper as your three. And then, those three guys really competing for the nickel job with probably going to Quay and Cooper next year. And then hopefully, Cooper being able to win out that dime linebacker position. So I think they'll probably draft somebody day 3 of the draft just to get some more competition in there. Wouldn't even shock me if they drafted 2 guys on day 3 just to kind of compete with some of the veterans like an Eric Wilson and things like that. But my guess is Hopper, Quay, Cooper, and then two kind of late round picks or journeyman guys that are kind of battling for spots 4 and 5. That would be my guess. Andy, one day I will have a sleep schedule like yours, so I too can be the best at what I do. I don't wish that, Drew. I will be totally honest. I am exhausted today. I am absolutely exhausted right now. I like sat down for like a second. I had a radio show right before this with John Papadopoulos and Lacrosse, and I had 5 minutes between the radio show and coming on here. And I just sat down for a second. I almost fell asleep and I like would have missed the entire thing today. I was just about to drift. I'm like, I had to get up and do this. So I am dragging today. There's no doubt about it. Still have the grades article that I have to write today. Still have the pregame show for tomorrow that I have to get ready for today still. So plenty to do on the docket, probably be another late night for me. And then tomorrow I'll get a slight reprieve during the day. And then, it's right back to the grind. Packers, Dolphins tomorrow, and right back to everything else. Happy hour on Friday, grading the tape, doing the rewatch, and it'll be a very minimal sleep, next, 3-4 days again. So don't necessarily wish it on anybody. I do feel, I was talking to a friend about this about a year ago. I do feel like I have some sort of superpower when it comes to it. Because like today I feel tired and exhausted, but usually I can get 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep anywhere in that range, not even remotely feel tired. Like as soon as I'm up, I'm good to go and can get all throughout the day and the night and not feel tired at all. There's every once in a while where I might need like a 15, 20 minute nap in the middle of the day, just as like a quick booster, but it's pretty rare that happens. And for the most part, like up until probably like an hour ago, I felt totally fine. And I probably got 4 hours of sleep last night. And yeah, so more often than not, I feel amazing despite the lack of sleep, but I don't necessarily wish it upon people. And there are times where it definitely is a lot tougher and I am dragging. And right now, to be totally transparent, a little bit tired at the moment, but we'll get through it. If you ever try blueberry pie, try it cold with whipped cream. Warm blueberry pie is not it. All right, good to know. I think it's good either way, but I'm a big blueberry person, so take that with a grain of salt. Fair enough. Do you see any green shoots for the pass rush, or is it still looking like a major concern? There's signs. There's signs there. I just think it needs to continue to get better. So no major hot take one way or the other. I don't think it's where it needs to be yet, but I think there's signs of growth and progress, and hopefully it can continue to trend in the right direction. On quarterback school, he said it feels like Jordan is predetermining where he's throwing the ball. Did you see that on tape at all? I'm assuming he meant the Watson play, right? Like the throw to Watson where the receiver undercut it. I thought there were a couple. I thought like the first play of the game where he threw the out route was probably a little predetermined. There was one later. There's the Watson one for sure. That was almost a pick. There's one later where he comes to one side of the field, or maybe it was just the first play. I don't know. I feel like there's one other one where it looked like he came to one side, and if he would have actually read the field, that there would have been a player wide open on the opposite side. And I can't remember which play that was, but it did feel like maybe there were 2 or 3 in this game. I don't think it's something that is like massively concerning. I mean, there's times where it's good to read read pre-snap what you think you're going to see. You just have to be able to adjust on the fly if you don't get what you're expecting. I think the interception to Jalen Petrie, right? Or the one where Petrie tipped it and the linebacker picked it off. I think that's one where you make the pre-snap read and it looks perfect. It looks gorgeous. You're going to get an easy completion to Dontavian Wicks and it's going to be a perfect play. I mean, not it's going to be like an 8-yard gain or whatever, but it looks perfect on the pre-snap read. And then all of a sudden post-snap, it doesn't look the same. So you got to be able to make that adjustment and not rip that pass and just throw it into the dirt if it's not what you're expecting, right? So I think there's maybe a little of it, but not something I'm massively concerned of at the moment. Say it depends on how Green Bay goes this season. Smith Bros' first year opposing offensive lineman had no idea what to do until the playoffs. So yeah, again, long-term, it's a much different conversation, but we can't make a determination on what Jacobs and McKinney are going to look like 2-3 years from now, right? But if you're just basing on year one, I would go with Smiths, Amos, and Turner. I doubt he's going to be able to go against the Lions, Matt, but I would love to be wrong. 28% isn't as high as I'd hoped, but I'll take it. Yeah, I would have actually expected it to be a little bit higher, but you have to remember Minnesota is ahead of Green Bay too and has a tiebreaker at the moment. So either way, it's going to be tough, but hey, you'll take any chance that you can get. Energy drink all day, every day. Hate coffee with a passion. I like tea. I like iced tea. Yeah, so tea I can drink. I have no problem with tea. Cannot stand coffee. Absolutely love energy drinks. Sorry, not a coffee guy. If we can beat Detroit at home, we got a great shot at beating Minnesota at home too. Sweeping the division the rest of the way is paramount to winning it at this point. How about we do that? Let's clear everything. I think we can clear it here. Let's clear everything out. And let's say Green Bay just wins all their division games the remainder of the way. So we don't know anything else, but they beat the Lions, the Vikings, and the Bears. That gets them up to about a 25% chance of winning the division. So go 3-0 against the Lions, Vikings, and Bears, and it definitely improves the chances quite a bit of winning the division. Because right now they're at like none. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. If it's hot blueberry pie, a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top is awesome. All right, now, and I'm kind of craving blueberry pie, and I didn't even know it was a thing that really existed up until right now. I need a vet rest day. I do need a vet rest day. It is it's mounting. I think coming up, once the Lions game is done, like Thursday, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll be able to kind of catch up on anything. And then that following week, when there's a Monday to a Sunday, is it Sunday or Sunday, because Sunday night football for Seattle. I'll have a little bit of like a mini bye week in there that should be very well deserved at that point. Happy Thanksgiving, Andy. Don't forget it's okay to like both turkey and ham. It's okay to dislike both turkey and ham as well. Remember that. Same, Andy. I love the smell of coffee, but the taste and not so much. I wish I love coffee. I love any way of getting more caffeine in my body. So coffee is obviously a great avenue to get a ton of caffeine into your body. And I would love that, but I've tried to acquire it on numerous occasions and just can't do it. Problem with tea is being from Colorado. They don't know what sweet iced tea is to be like if they do it in the first place. That's probably true. Same in Wisconsin, really. Don't know if we have to address this, but what a game Quay had other than that drop interception. I really love the energy and explosion he had. If it keeps up only from here, not like Stokes. Yeah, no, we talked about this quite a bit. My highest graded player this week. Really fun stuff from Quay. Just hoping he can continue it and stack success. Not holding my breath. It's one game, but I really, really liked what Quay did in this past game. Yeah, probably I can imagine Colorado's not known for their tea. Start with iced lattes and that have different flavors. Probably, I don't know, maybe someday I'll try again, but today is not going to be that day. All right, friends, I do need to get out of here. Thank you so much for all of your patronage, your support, your well wishes, your thankfulness, all of it. You're the absolute best. I will be back here eventually. I don't know. Oh, the next live will be happy hour on Friday. So we'll do that. I don't think I'm going to be able to do pregame or postgame tomorrow from a live standpoint, but we'll still have a ton of content right here on the channel. So keep an eye out for that. Again, you're the absolute best. I'll see you all very soon. Have a happy Thanksgiving, a safe and fun Thanksgiving, and most importantly, one that consists of a pizza, hopefully, and more importantly, a Packers win. See y'all soon. Enjoy, everyone. Until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.